The only other thing we can do at this moment is tonight pay tribute to Chris Benoit.
Some moments in wrestling have aged gracefully, while others not so much. Number 1. Paige and Alberto Del Rio proposal. Now on October 16, 2016, Paige proposed to Alberto Del Rio. That was also the beginning of the end for Del Rio's career. Now let's backtrack to May 2016 when it became public that the two started dating. Alberto Del Rio was 37 and Paige was only 23. This looked like an odd relationship and there were plenty of rumors that it was an extremely toxic relationship. Money in the Bank 2016 was the first public indication of that, as a photo leaked online that showed Paige being escorted into the back of an ambulance in handcuffs. The rumor was that her and Del Rio were fighting, though it was eventually confirmed that Paige and Del Rio were heckled by a couple nearby Caesar's Palace. But that wasn't the first time that these two were seen in handcuffs. In fact, the relationship was so bad that even WWE tried to break them up. Before Paige and Del Rio went public, it was rumored that WWE officials threatened to fire Paige if she didn't break up with the former WWE champion. That didn't happen, but then WWE tried to use their annual draft as a way to split these two up. But once again, it didn't happen. What this relationship did was tarnish Paige's reputation. During a time with Del Rio, she was charged with domestic violence and suspended under WWE's wellness policy. We don't know the particular layers surrounding Paige and Del Rio's relationship. Many had thought that it was just a healthy one, but the two finally broke up in 2017. This exposed Del Rio in a negative light, and though Paige didn't certainly come across as an angel, the general consensus was that Del Rio was the one leading her down a dark path. Dutch Mantel, who was Del Rio's manager in his second run, even explained the toxic nature of the relationship behind the scenes on his Storytime with Dutch Mantel podcast.
Del Rio was his own worst enemy. And getting with that girl, what was her name? Paige, and she's Soraya. I think that was his downfall right there, because he was very, very jealous of her. And from what I've heard, she was very, very jealous of him, and they both like to drink. So put them together, two volatile personalities, and add some liquor in, and you had some problems.
Del Rio has not stepped 1 foot back into WWE after his failed second stint. Well, that's more so due to the fact that the former WWE star was very unprofessional behind the scenes, but his relationship with Paige did irreparable harm to his reputation. It didn't help that Del Rio is the only one who was charged again for sexual assault and 1 count of assault causing actual bodily harm a couple of years later. The charges were eventually dropped, but Del Rio's name remains tainted. Number 2. Jared Fogle in WWE. Now remember that guy who lost all that weight because of Subway? Jared Fogle was an inspiration to the average nerds who struggle to lose weight. He became an overnight celebrity thanks to Subway, and he made a couple of appearances for WWE starting in 2006 with a commercial featuring him and John Cena. He was also given a guest announcer role for Mickie James and Maurice's match, where he called a former WWE's champion Maurice. Another saw CM Punk trying to recruit the Subway guy into the straight edge society. WWE awkwardly put Jared in 4 different segments promoting their Subway from 2006 to 2012. Then those charges came up. Jared Fogle was arrested on August 19, 2005 for charges that would instantly flag this video. These were massive felonies and some of the most heinous crimes any man can do. Now, as you can imagine, Subway dropped Jared instantly. Jared was done with WWE by this point, but Jared's business ties were the least of his issues. The former Subway spokesman was sentenced to 15 years in prison and is currently rotting in a prison cell. While it's clearly not WWE's fault that Jared Fogle turned out to be a twisted pervert, the segments of him on WWE television certainly don't age well. Number 3. Cody Rhodes smashing the throne. Cody Rhodes was determined to prove WWE wrong when he left the company in 2016. Cody simply had no direction in his career during that time, as Vince saw him as Stardust and nothing more. So Cody set out to prove that he could be a success and travel the independent scene from 2016 to 2019, and it instantly revitalized his career. The independent scene was so hot during this time that it was breaking all kinds of North American records. So it was no surprise that Cody became one of the central pillars of AEW when the company first started. On May 25, 2019, Cody proved that he came to be a star and wanted to symbolize his present while distancing himself from the past. So before his match against his brother Dustin, Cody came out seated on Triple H's signature throne, and guess what? He smashed it. He smashed it to pieces. This was the start of a new era for Cody, and there was no going back to the place that almost destroyed his career. However, people and situations can change, and that's exactly what happened when Cody Rhodes didn't re-sign with AEW in 2022. Cody has never really gone into further details on why he and Tony Khan never came to terms on re-signing a new deal, but he did note that it was for personal reasons. But Cody always wanted to try and conquer the WWE one more time, so he came back, but this time he was a massive star and has remained WWE's top babyface for the last 3 years. In 2021, Cody finally explained on Inside the Ropes why he smashed Triple H's throne at Double or Nothing, and it was simply to make a statement. I think I wanted to make a statement on what we were doing, and I think what we did was clearly the biggest statement we could make. Afterwards, you know, I really get long-winded. Sometimes I say the wrong thing, and in this executive role, I've put my foot in my mouth so many times, whereas when I was a talent, I could get away with it. Talents can lie, talents can exaggerate. When you're any type of management, you're held accountable, which is a lesson for me to learn. But yeah, I wanted to be clear what we were doing. You mentioned the barbs back and forth, that's part of what we do. Trash talk is part of what we do, but also when they counter-programmed us for no reason other than to split our audience, I didn't want to meet that in a cowardly fashion. I wanted to flat out say, okay, well great, our show is still going to be better, as crazy as this, we're going to win. So if we want to have this moment in time on Wednesday nights where we put all eyes on wrestling, we're going to win. I don't want to go into any battle with the idea that we're going to lose. I'm face forward in the company on so many things, so I wanted to go in and let them know I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to openly smash this iconic symbol and what it stands for to some fans. Yeah, there's so much to that moment. But did this bother Triple H? Well, in fact, Triple H stated on Alan and Carly on Hit WA, he laughed about it and went on to say that he would have done the same thing. Number 4, CM Punk praising the Young Bucks. Yeah, there was actually a time where CM Punk praised the Young Bucks, even though they're mortal enemies now. This was during a time when Punk was in the UFC. After his epic fight with Mike Johnson at UFC 225, Punk did an interview with MMA Fighting and not only praised the former AEW World Tag Team Champions, but said he texted them on and off. In fact, Punk criticized Cody Rhodes for a supposed offer through texting. Now, we all know how much the relationship deteriorated between the Bucks and CM Punk the moment he officially signed with AEW on August 20th, 2021. Now, it's not clear when the beef between the Bucks and Punk started, but there's rumors that issues began in 2019 when the Bucks were trying to get the former WWE champion into AEW. According to Steve Mulhausen, the Bucks felt slighted and were upset when Punk turned down their advances to come out of retirement. Fast forward to 2022, and the comments Punk made at the All Out Media Scrum cemented his dislike for the Bucks. CM Punk believed that the Bucks were spreading rumors to Dave Meltzer and the media outlets about him attempting to get Colt Cabana fired. Now, I don't know if the Bucks were leaking that sort of information to the journalists, but CM Punk seemed so damn sure that night. He buried the EVPs by saying that they were spreading lies and bullshit and they were irresponsible pricks who couldn't manage a target. It was reported that after Punk's rant, he was confronted by the head of AEW Legal about his comments, and that led into an all-out brawl that severely impacted AEW as a brand. It's definitely one of the darker times in AEW, despite it being the biggest year for the promotion financially. Thankfully, both sides have moved on, and AEW seems to be finally finding its groove again. Just don't expect Punk to say that he likes the Young Bucks ever again. Number 5, Tony Khan congratulates WWE. And did you know that Tony Khan was actually a WWE fan? Okay, well, maybe that's not news, as it's publicly known that the AEW president is a massive wrestling fan, but it's just strange to look back on all of the times Khan congratulated WWE before AEW started in 2019. Tony gave a happy birthday to Stephanie McMahon in 2014, congratulated Roman Reigns on winning the WWE Championship in 2015, and has sent plenty of other messages proudly displaying his wrestling fandom. His tweets are quite wholesome actually, and it's a big reason that the fans gravitated towards Tony Khan's AEW early on. He's a genuine fan of pro wrestling. Say what you want about the product, but Tony Khan isn't doing this to make a quick buck. However, it can't be denied that AEW took as many pot shots at WWE and vice versa. Whether it was Triple H calling AEW a pissant company, to Cody Rhodes smashing a King of Kings throne, or mentioning that Triple H only has his position because he's bonking the boss's daughter, in a world of business, it's unlikely that AEW and WWE will ever see eye to eye. And it wouldn't be much of a surprise if Tony Khan hated WWE because they're doing everything in their power to destroy it. But Tony Khan is a wrestling fan first and foremost, so it wouldn't be much of a surprise if he had a secret bunker where he watches all of his favorite WWE shows. Number 6, Cody Rhodes will never be WWE champion. Now, there was actually a point where it seemed that Cody Rhodes would never be a world champion. When Rhodes made his debut on Raw in 2007, it would have been easy to dismiss him as another forgettable third-generation talent. His character and presentation was bland and lacked the charisma that screamed top star. In fact, when Legacy formed, many thought that Ted DiBiase Jr. would become the star. Cody Rhodes developed himself to a point where he became a megastar. Even before his WWE departure, Cody Rhodes showcased a newfound charisma that was missing during his debut. Plus, he started to carry himself as a star as the years went by. So at this point, it was quite shocking when Bleacher Report put up an article in 2018 on why Cody Rhodes will never be a world champion. This was a time where Cody was deep into his independent run and it was easily the best decision he made of his career. Had Cody remained on the WWE roster, then he would have likely been a low-card jobber. Cody's independent run allowed him the freedom to tap into the roots of his character. Once he dropped the Stardust act, his natural charisma shined through and fans gravitated towards him because of that. He also grew as a performer. However, the Bleacher Report articles seemed to ignore his run on the Indies and mainly focused on his WWE run. Number 7. The Rock dismissing the reports of him being at WrestleMania 41. So The Rock wasn't at WrestleMania 41. That makes the former WWE champion a big fat liar. That's because Dwayne actively disputed rumors that he wasn't working WrestleMania 41. The rumor started with Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer, who claimed that The Rock already gave notice that he was not going to do WrestleMania 41. But The Rock managed to fire back to a fan who questioned his status for the big show by stating not to believe any of that BS. And that seemed to be true at the time because The Rock played a huge role at Elimination Chamber by being the catalyst of John Cena's heel turn. Following the shocking turn, WWE notably went out of their way to not mention The Rock. The 53-year-old was the catalyst that drove Cena to turn heel, but he became a glaring black cloud because it was an important piece of context missing in the weeks leading up to WrestleMania 41. But still, the fans expected the People's Champion to make his return at WrestleMania 41, and for a brief second, it seemed like The Rock was coming home. The main event had the typical heel shenanigans that saw interference from Travis Scott, another man who took part in Cena's heel turn. But The Rock never came out. That only made the main event worse. Unanimously, everyone agreed that The Rock's no-showing was baffling. The lack of the Great One was loud that it forced him to give a reason on why he didn't make a WrestleMania 41 appearance.
When we were moving forward with John, and this idea of him getting crowned at WrestleMania and becoming 17 and turning heel, and then being a heel champion, I knew then the best thing for the final boss, we've established this idea of Cody's soul. We can always come back to it. I did feel, and I made the call, I don't want to be involved in that. Step back. Let the final boss step back into the shadows. Let all the spotlight go to John. Let it go to Cody. Let's not make it about Cody's soul eventually or John's soul. No, let's let them do what they do.
In reality, the explanation doesn't make any sense. The story was about John Cena selling out his soul to The Rock. There needed to be some type of follow-up on why Cena decided to take up The Rock's offer. That "You People" promo didn't work because it felt hollow and outdated. It was extremely awkward that neither Cody or Cena couldn't bring up The Rock despite him being the central figure that brought them to opposite sides. Reportedly, the original plan was for Cena to turn at WrestleMania 41, which would have made for a better ending. Plus, fans wouldn't have had the expectation that The Rock would play a role because he wouldn't be the catalyst leading up to Cena vs. Cody. It's unclear why The Rock felt that he needed to shut down Dave Meltzer's claim, but him actively denying those rumors ultimately backfired in the end. Number 8. Paul Heyman calling Brock Lesnar lookalike the next big thing. Do you guys remember the next big thing, Haaland? I don't feel bad if you don't remember the guy, as his run in NXT and AEW was rather forgettable. But Paul Heyman once pegged Park Boudreaux as the next big thing in WWE. Boudreaux had little to no experience when he was signed in 2021, so Paul Heyman hyping up the former NXT star was mainly due to his resemblance to Brock Lesnar. When Boudreaux finally made his television debut, WWE decided to completely change his look to some generic prisoner named Haaland. Paired with Joe Gacy, Haaland was given a couple of chances to prove why he was the next big thing in wrestling, but Haaland only proved that he wasn't quite ready for primetime television. He didn't even last a full year as he was released on April 29, 2022, but he got a second chance in AEW. Jim Ross, a man who has an eye for talent, noted that he would love to see Boudreaux in AEW, and Tony Khan gave him a chance to do something meaningful. But his run started off bad as he was put into a lower card faction known as the Trustbusters with Ariya Daivari and Slim J. Boudreaux showed some improvement, but he still had some ways to live up to the hype that both Paul Heyman and Jim Ross set for him. Tony Khan tried to pair him with Swerve Strickland as one of the former AEW World Champions heavies in a group known as the Mogul Affiliate, but he quickly suffered an injury in June 2023 and never stepped foot back into an AEW ring until his release in April 2024. On the surface, it was clear that this guy was touted as the next big thing because of his look, but he just didn't cut it as a performer because he simply wasn't ready. Now Boudreaux is still young and competes on the independent circuit, so there's a possibility that he could come back and become the next big thing. But as of now, this was a big misfire from Paul Heyman. But there you have it, folks. Moments that aged terribly in wrestling. Be sure to leave your comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.